everybody, thanks for watching Access Hockey MI. Sorry we were off last week. Rachel was running and riding a bike a lot of miles.
I was doing race things.
In a race. So congratulations to Rachel for finishing.
Yay! You don't need to know my times, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's fine, but that's super great. But we're back with some draft talk because NHL released their NHL Central Scouting released their top 32 prospects for the draft. The 2021 draft is coming upon us quickly.
Yes.
So we're going to talk today about two guys that we're excited about. Not necessarily that we think the Red Wings are going to draft first round, but two guys that we're excited to see in the top 32, and also we may potentially get them first round. We do pick 6th overall this year. The last time we had a first overall pick was 1986. And we're just going to briefly mention that last year we should have gotten the first pick, but instead
may not be a conspiracy.
It's a little weird that it would go back to like the original.
Yeah. Not saying, just saying. It seems weird.
So last year, basically, they redid the lottery to where the first pick would go to. I believe
it was the first team to get kicked out of the playoffs.
Well, it was a lottery between those teams,
Yeah.
so they were in the running, but the worst teams were kicked out of that first place running. So it was kind of like, okay, is it going to be like this going forward? Turns out, no. This year it's back to normal.
Apparently, ping pong balls had COVID, so it changed how we did the draft lottery last year. So you didn't know that.
The ball they clicked.
If you don't know, watch it. It's funny.
Anyway, so just like a little note on that, I guess. Let us know in the comments what you think about it going back to what it was right after the Red Wings aren't the worst team.
And where the Wings ended up.
It's just interesting.
There's a few thoughts.
So, today we're going to talk about two guys we're excited about in this upcoming draft, and let's get going.
I want to preface this by saying that everything that we say
is an opinion.
It is an opinion, but watch Yzerman's press conferences because it's very important to hear directly from the GM where his thoughts are. So everything that we're kind of wrapping around, it has a lot to do with what he had said in that press conference.
Right.
So first things first, before I mention even the first prospect, is that we do need all positions. This is not like, we have to fill this one position. These prospects we're just pumped for. Detroit needs everything. We've gone pretty D heavy, but you're going to see, it's going to be an equal mix. It's going to be a mixed bag, especially when it comes to goaltending and things like that. So the first one out of the European top 32 is going to be Fyodor Svechkov. It's like if you say Svechnikov wrong.
But instead say Svechkov right.
Exactly. So either way, you're going to be right about somebody. So right now he's listed at 6th in the European overall. I believe the consolidated is about, 30th-ish that he's on there. So that's North American and European. But he is considered a defensive forward. So really sharp skater, typical Russian with his footwork and all that. He seems pretty nimble along the boards. He's a good net front presence. But he's kind of pushed his way up towards the top. And then just recently in the Worlds, he had 10 points in 7 games. So he can capitalize. He's gotten a lot of looks right now over in Russia, being promoted from the MHL to the VHL, which is kind of, the similar progression we do here in the States. So he's worked his way up and he's made a very good impression so far.
Yeah, and if you are super interested, there are a lot of videos on his play from this last season, which is actually really hard to find, at least if you're looking for free tools to find. It's hard to find a lot of good videos
without giving your computer a virus.
Right. You never know what's in there, so
don't click
be
the
careful.
boxes.
But on YouTube, there are quite a bit of videos on Fyodor Svechkov. I'm going to say it wrong. So those are interesting in case you guys are interested in watching kind of how he plays. So defensive forward we love those. We are always talking about how you have to be a little of both. If you're a forward, you got to have some defense in you. If you're a defenseman, you should have some forward thinking in you as well. So what I noticed in the videos that we watch is he's always in the way. He's always getting in the way to make turnovers, to then get into some scoring opportunities, which is super great to see. So as Rachel was saying, he moved up in leagues in Russia. So he started out in, it just said, if you look at NHL, it says it pretty clearly, but to see that he's actually progressing in Russia right now in the 2021 season, it's really encouraging to see that because that just means he's getting better. He showed himself at the Worlds for sure. 10 points, 7 games.
Obviously
big
getting
deal.
better though too.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of players over there, and the way that things have worked now, I think they've got more over there than what they typically do.
Maybe.
Just because there's not a lot of travel happening. So for him to be able to get the attention to then get moved up is really exciting. He's got some slick passes too, which are pretty cool to watch.
Yeah. So who's the second?
Second one. So North American prospects, we've had a lot of opportunity to see many of these guys because a lot of them are USHL, which we're super pumped about, as you know.
And if you don't know, this might be your first video.
So a few notable mentions before I get into the other one is Owen Power, obviously first, Matthew Coronado, which we've talked about, and then Svechkov.
And these are obvious, as Rachel's saying, because they're all from the Chicago Steel. We did a whole video on the Chicago Steel, who did end up winning the Anderson Cup. Oh, the Clark Cup.
The Clark Cup.
In the USHL. So congratulations to them. We saw it coming. I mean, we wanted to win, and of course, it's hindsight's 2020.
That little voice in the back of your head that's like they're going to take it
They
again.
have a lot of good players. Exactly. That's what the voice says.
So these are some of the obvious guys. A little bit further down the list is someone that maybe not everyone is paying attention to. Sasha. Pastujov. And Sasha, I hope I said that right. So if you ever watch this, please forgive me.
Sasha man, dude.
Sash the guy. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a cool nickname. It's not working. But he did really well with the USA development program. Previously to that, he was with the USA team, or the USA team. I think it's
so
the U18.
Here's how it works.
They have it broken up into like
They have it broken up. The U18s are kind of the top tier. They're not considered USHL. They play the USHL.
They play college teams.
But they play college teams. They play worldwide. So they really go Team USA, which is 17 usually and under. And then if they really want you to progress and get better, you do the U18s and if you're 18 or above.
Right.
Or I think even 17 can go. It's just called the USA 18 and it's USA NTDP. So it's the National Development Program. So they're not considered USHL. They do play a lot of different.
It's confusing.
Kind of confusing, but it's notable because he started in the Team USA, so that would be the USHL level, and he was good enough to go to the Team U18s, the National Development Program.
Yeah. So again, just like Svechkov, kept moving up, showing progression. And the fun thing with him is not only he's a point producer, because we did have the opportunity to see him this last season.
Well, at least 3 times.
Yeah, and it's a name that keeps coming up and is always being mentioned. So, we would be listening to broadcasts while we're actually at the game and hearing his name constantly come up and the kid never gets off the ice.
Right.
He's not... he's a good shooter. He's not one of those players that's just going to throw himself into a situation. He's very smart. He's very patient, I think.
Efficient.
With the puck. Yeah, and efficient. He doesn't waste his time, and he gets really low penalty minutes, which, eventually you're kind of going to see those bump up as players get a little bit more aggressive and a little bit bigger and fill out a little bit more.
And as they should, and it's just based on the game, based on kind of how you feel it out. He's not reckless.
Yeah.
So when he first came, or when he was first on USA, so the lower tier, 2019, 2020, he did quite a few more penalty minutes. The only reason we say this is just because it was kind of an obvious 85 penalty minutes to 18. So it's just kind of
But it's also the difference between those two. The USA team, you can always tell a stark difference between the U17s and U18s. It's amazing the maturity that happens with the team development that year. But Sasha is an amazing player, and we think, he's... Right now, he's sitting at, I'm trying to read my notes because I scribbled like a doctor this time. So right now, I want to say he's I'm going to say this wrong, so forgive me, please. I want to say he's 10th or 11th, but...
He's in the top 32.
He's in the top 32
North
for sure. That we can say with
and we're excited about.
Sorry, my notes are terrible
It's
today.
okay.
But thank you for...
But he also was in the Worlds this last year, and he had done 8 points. 8 points in 5 games. I'm sorry, guys. 8 points in 5 games.
This is what happens when I go run a race instead of doing a video. It messes us both up.
So it's a whole nother, you can find videos on this kid too, and like Rachel said, the U18s, it's a really great team to kind of see where you're at based on when they play the teams in the USHL. They're kind of like that team that's
like the benchmark team.
Yeah, you measure up a little bit, but I mean, they're not superstars by any imagination, this team isn't. So, but there are superstars on the team. So Sasha is one of those superstars, and I think that he's going to be really great, and I think that the Red Wings could use, he's great in that front, he's really great. He's just crafty, and he's efficient, and he's fast, and I think that I
like those thoughtful players.
Yeah.
I think everybody, there's certain types of players that are those gritty, grind line kind of guys where they're just out there to go level somebody.
Yeah.
Great. But where the team is at, we need points.
Yeah.
So in the next couple of years, that's kind of what we're going to be looking to go for.
These are, so like we said in the beginning, these are 2 guys we're excited for. We're not saying they're going to be drafted first round by us by any means. We're 6th overall. One thing to note is that in the recent press conference that Yzerman did give on this topic, he said he relies a ton on the scouts that they have in the system. So over the last couple of seasons, he's been able to kind of rework the front office, get the people in there that he wants, see who's working out, see who's got his vision, that kind of thing. And he relies mostly on the scouts. So Nicholas Cronwall is a scout for us. He's been over in Sweden for almost the entire season, I imagine. So we're probably going to have a lot of Swedes again this draft. which is great. That's
I'm not
fine.
complaining.
Yeah. So that's interesting because usually I always imagine that the GM has a huge say, but it's interesting that he relies heavily because his job is to general manage. The scout's job is to find the guys who are going to fit the team.
And it's important to understand that though too. Like he reserves the right to be like, no, I don't want that guy. But these are people who, especially this last season, have been strategically placed in these locations, watching them personally. And Hakan Anderson, he's been with Detroit forever. So he's one of their most trusted scouts. And of course, you're going to take his word.
Yeah.
And that's the importance too of showing just kind of this coming together of the team and, you know, delegating the responsibilities, but also everyone being on the same page for the big picture of the team.
And someone we didn't mention, which is kind of surprising because he's looked at to be number 1 overall, which is Owen Power, who also played for the Chicago Steel. If you're not seeing a pattern here, watch the rest of the video again.
What's going on.
Yeah, they've got something really great going on, but it is interesting because I don't think he's as touted as draft prospects in the past, as far as like Lafreniere was just worshipped.
Oh my goodness.
Same thing with Jack Hughes. So it's interesting that Power, I feel like, is kind of coming in under the radar, but he's also going to be super great. I don't think he's overestimated at all.
No, and we were able to watch him too, and that's what's super cool about seeing these drafts these last couple of seasons. We've been very familiar with a lot of these players, you know, North American, of course.
Right.
But seeing guys like this kind of push their way to the top, though this prospect pool is potentially, you know, it's not as deep or as popular.
Or it doesn't seem as deep.
Yeah, as seasons pass. You know, the seasons past, there's been these huge names that everybody seems to know, even in like the 5th and 6th rounds.
Right.
This season's not so much, but I think there could be a lot of diamonds in the rough, and the Wings have, a pick in every round, which there'll probably be some, you know, some draft day trades and stuff. But we might be able to get some of those guys that are lesser knowns that end up being the cornerstones of the team in a couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a long shot to think so, and we're not saying that because the Red Wings haven't been doing so great. They draft really well, and we're seeing now
that's
as
one
evidence,
thing that has been consistent.
I was gonna say, as evidenced by who Yzerman and the team have been signing, that we've been seeing drafted in the past. So again, keep a lookout at this team. The Red Wings aren't going to go anywhere. They're going to be great again, and they're still working toward that goal.
Right.
They're not giving up. They're trying to see what they have and to see what they need going forward. So those are 2 guys we're excited about. We're probably going to keep doing this up until the draft, guys that kind of get on our radar. If you have any questions about maybe some of the guys that we mentioned that we didn't talk too much about in this video, let us know in the comments. We really appreciate you guys coming along with us, and we hope to see you again next week in our next video. Via the camera.
That's right.
Because we're not going to see you here. This is on a camera.
Please don't show up at my house.
Okay. We'll see you guys next time.